One has to learn how to deal with different environments. Environments. Savivot. Things that surround you. Savid. The gematria of Savivot happens to be 480, which is the same gematria as Sitra Akra. Environments are always difficult to deal with. Today, it's snowing here. Sheleg. Sheleg is a great word. The gematria is 333. Anything that has a repetition 3 times of its same thing is propitious. The Aleph has a 111 gematria. Of 110, but it's not quite the same as Sheleg is 300, Lamed is 30, and Gimel is 3. So it's 333. That 333 is half of 666. So in the mystical number 666, if you do whole and a half, you get Sheleg as its half, and you add it to its whole, so it's 666, and 333 is 999, and that just so happens to be El Shaddai, fully spelt out. Do all these gematriot yourself. Spell out El Shaddai. Now, in my gematria, I spell out El Shaddai normally, and then I add 1 and make it an Aleph, and that's 1,000. Beautiful. Environments. Snow. I played out in the snow today. Tennis against the wall. And whenever you deal in snow, you have to be precise with your footing. You have to establish a base. So, for me, I am not, grounded in the legs, as you see. Number 1, I'm sitting down. Number 2, I'm always talking. And number 3, man is an animal with hands. But there's something about the base, you see, that establishes yourself into Malkus, into the earth, and to be in contact with that earth. And that's not what I usually am. So, in my mentality, the snow came today, so I'd have to fix my base into the ground more. Watch out that I don't slip. Once that base is fixed, which is the triangle in Aikido, then I do my shot, I sink my weight, and then I open up, spiral up. I sink down, and then I spiral up. And that's the point I want to make here. Just thought of something, you see. Because when you sink down, that's the final letter Mem. That's the letter 13. And when you rise up, you spiral up, and that's the Samech. And you spiral up. And so the Samech, which is the letter 15, the number 15 in the ordinal, and the Mem, which is the number 13, comes out to be 28. And that's 2 times nun. And that's what there are. There are two nuns. There's a bent nun and a straightened nun. And so there are two nuns. And the two nuns are covered by the mem on one side and the samek on the other. And as being 28, 13 and 15. And so here, now I'm playing and I'm exercising this nun. This nun. What would that nun mean? Because there are two nuns. The bent nun of the regular nun, and then the final nun, which is that's straightened. And how do we know this? Actually, we say this 3 times a day, twice in the morning and once in the afternoon prayer, when we say the word, and when we say the psalm, the prayer, Ashrei. Now everybody knows Ashrei. Do you also know that in Ashrei there's no letter nun? Everybody says, oh, why isn't there a letter nun? And they say, oh, it's because of the fallen, and it's like negative. And the letter nun, which is like a letter N, in every language, N is a negative. Niet, non, no, never, nil, 9. It's always negative. Nun is a negative sound, whatever. It implies the fallen. See? It's fallen in the environment of the Sitra Achra, the Savivot. Now, that with the mem and the this, that's a little different. The concept in Ashrei. If you read the Samach line where it says, the line that's after the nun, so to speak, where it should be, which is 14, then the 15th letter, Samach says, Somech Adonai l'kol hanofalim. That's obviously, Somech means to support, foundation, support. Now the beauty of Somech, if you use a final cough there, comes out to be 606. Samech, Vav, Mem, that's 106, and 500 for the kaf is 606, which is Atzmutz level. The Atzmutz level we're dealing in here. And there, watch this, Adonai l'kol hanofalim, the nofalim is the bent nun. And that bent nun, I call horizontal. Okay? It's horizontal, like the roots of a tree, or your feet on the ground lie horizontally, or lying down, or how one is buried in the ground. Okay? That's horizontal. Then, that's the Somech Adonai l'kol hanofalim. That's the first part of the verse. And then, that's now, v'zokef l'kol ha-kefufim. And to straighten up, v'zokef, zakef or whatever. V'zokef, straighten up. That's what it means. To all the bent over. So the kafufim is the fallen, that's the nun, it's called the bent nun, that's the regular nun. and then the bent one will be straightened up. And that's the kafufim. They'll straighten up the bent nun. Straighten up those that are bent over the kaf. So here the two nuns are actually in this, implied in the Samach verse. The Naphalim and the Kufufim. So the Naphalim is, he supports all the Naphalim and he straightens them up. Now, the 14th letter, how is that going to be done, by the way? And how is that signified? On Rosh Hashanah, when we do the shofar, we say, oh, the shofar is 316, but you add the 14 perics of the hand. Well, it's 586. But for the first part, it's Shin Vav, which is 306. And then you add the 14 perics of the hand that holds the shofar, they say. Because Yad is 14. The 14 perics of the hand, 3, 6, 9, 12, and 2 on the thumb, is 14. And they call that adding to it to make 600. 600 is the final mem. 600 is also the two shins on the tefillin. Samach is also 600. The Samach, the mem, that's 100, and the final kaf. Final kaf, 500, that's 600. So the shofar, when you add 14 perics into the 316, comes out to 320, and then the fa is 280. And those are the two levels of dinam. The 320 are the hard dinam of the first day of Leah, of the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and the second is par, the 280, which are related to the 5 finals. 280. That's the second day. That's the lesser dinam. That's the day of Rachel. And those two together is 600. And the shofar blast of Rosh Hashanah. What does that do? Well, to me, that raises the dead. It raises the dead from the horizontal position to the straight position. From the roots of the tree to the vertical tree itself. But even greater than that. From the lying of the dead, the raising of the dead, right? Back to life, vertical. But the mezuzah. The mezuzah. Because there are two ways to have the mezuzah. Rashi says have the mezuzah vertical. Rabbeinu Tam said have the mezuzah horizontal. So, this horizontal mezuzah and the potential of the vertical mezuzah imply these two times I'm talking about. They imply the dead and the raising of the dead. The nun, bent over nun in regular, and the final nun. And so the horizontal mezuzah of Rashi and Rabbanu, the vertical mezuzah of Rashi and the horizontal mezuzah of Rabbeinu Tam, because he says, oh, that's the way the Torah is placed on the bima and stuff like that. And so what do? They've done a compromise of a horizontal between the two. So it's the horizontal that we see, the slant that we see, isn't anybody's opinion. It's some sort of compromise between the vertical and the horizontal. And that's where we are, kind of. We're kind of in this narthex period. To me, in Olam Haba, we'll be straight on the mezuzah. Be a raising of the dead from the shofar, whose letter Nun was added to that shofar, not as 14th letter, not the 14 perics of the hand. The Nun implies this resurrection of the horizontal into the vertical. That's the way I look at this. In a certain sense, snow, Shelek comes to moisten the graves. In a certain sense, to me, it's man. Man, which contains the final nun. This support that comes from the Samach, it's a deep region. The Samach is also at 600, the shofar, when this nun, or the 14 perics, or however you want to see it, is added. The whole problem is on the mezuzah. Which way to put it? Sephardic, Ashkenazi. But nobody puts it horizontal. It said in Olam Haba that the Aleph will be written Yud, Vav, straight line Vav, and then another Yud. Our Aleph that we write today is Yud on top, Vav slanted like a mezuzah, and then Yud on the bottom. So it implies more of a hierarchical, up and down, Hashamayim and Haaretz, male on top, female on the bottom. Maybe we should start writing the Alephs like we will be writing them in Olam Haba. Yud, Vav, Yud. And that will balance off the male and the female aspects of an equal position. This Vav, they say, is also, when extended, becomes a final Nun. Because you write a nun the same, final nun the same way as a vav. The head of the yud of the top of the nun is on the left. And so a vav and a final nun is written the same way. So may I suggest, write that vav line a little bit longer, but it appears to be long anyway, doesn't it? Because when you write in fact, you don't need it too long. Because you write the yud, then a vav, and the vav looks like, relative to the yud, looks like a final nun, because it drops below the line of the yud. So let me suggest that. I like that. Let's start writing aleph. Yud, vav, yud. Yud, vav, yud. Straight vav. Because the slanted vav implies horizontal and includes horizontal. And in the resurrection of the dead, because there is no horizontal, they become vertical. And even now, there are cases of vertical burial for tzaddikim. And also burials where the tzaddik has his head between his knees in a circle. Why? In a sabak. Why? Because Somek Adonai L'cho HaNafalim. Supports all the horizontal and makes them vertical. So here's my Hiddush now, that my innovation is to have the alephs now written as yud, straight vav, yud. Not aleph as yud, right, slanted aleph and then yud on the bottom, which to me implies hierarchies. Hierarchies of above and below, which there are none. Or should I say, which there are none. There are no hierarchies. Everything is in its natural state. Look out, there's snow. Did you call for it? Hello? Yes. Yes, with that pizza, could you deliver with snow? See? You want, oh, we have snow cones? No, I don't want snow cones. I want the snow. So that's what this is all about. The writings of the yud, of the aleph, as yud, vav, yud, with a straight line. Let me leave with that.